Hey everyone, we are Comics from the Multiverse. We are a DC Comics podcast for MailFuzz TV. This is going to be our specific conversation about the first issue of DC... I was going to say DC Metal. Dark Knight's Metal, to be precise, which is Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's big event that's been building to... Matt's throwing up the horns there to just show that it's metal.
Too much metal for one hand.
So that's what we're going to talk about. I'm Peter. That's Matt there doing the devil horns.
What's up?
And the ginger one down there is Connor.
All right, guys.
So I guess it was okay.
I know what you're doing, and I don't like it.
Like I have one phrase. I have one phrase that I want to say. Now, obviously, as we go through the books, we have spoilers for each book because we're going to talk about them.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll rephrase that. There's going to be Stephanie Browns. I like to say it that way. But I have one phrase that I want to say. No, you're not a comics podcast, Matt. Shut up.
That's why it's funny when I say that.
So I have one word that I want to say. Well, one phrase. Not one word, but one phrase.
Epic. Like the Faith No More song.
No.
Damn it.
Justice League Megazord.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
I was edging more towards Voltron, but whatever.
I never watched Voltron as a kid.
It was a Megazord.
Yeah, I never...
Yeah, I don't like Voltron either, but I just wanted to poke at Pete.
I want to examine this glorious creation for a second, right? Because
I like how we're starting with the Megazord. That's how you tell Pete's driving the conversation here.
Look, we'll get to all the other juicy bits. I know Connor's waiting to fawn over the last page and who's showing up and whatever else is happening.
A mountain appeared from nowhere. How are we sleeping on that?
We're getting to it. But we get a Megazord to talk about first.
What about the rest of the prologue?
Okay, they're on a new War Moon, which referenced the Action Comics run because, like, he mentions that Mongol fought Zod, and he says fought. I'm like, no, he got the shit kicked out of him. He got kicked off the planet. Like,
He got punched into space.
It wasn't really a fight, but sure, Batman, sure. Then again, he wasn't there. Maybe Superman was sugarcoating. Maybe Superman cared about Mongol's feelings. He didn't want to feel embarrassed for him, so he's like, no, it was more of a fight. It was, more equal.
I love that they've all got this armor on that kind of dampens their specific powers.
Yeah.
But it looks so cool.
And Mongols...
Yeah, and some classic Snyder overwriting where he adds a little, not overwriting in the bad way, but like he mentions like, oh, the dust of 1,000 crushed red suns for Superman's armor and
1,000, not just one red sun, 1,000 red suns.
1,000. And how do you crush a gas giant?
It's
That's
a few thousand.
A few thousand, okay. And then like for Flash, they were like Dominator boots that they
something like that.
Yeah. Slaves.
And then for Wonder Woman, it was the Serpent something or other. It was like a
something from one of the Gorgons from one of Medusa's sisters, and so that was a fun little thing. And then they reference him, like Green Lantern has a black hole built into his glove, so the light keeps getting sucked into it, and
a black hole. Again, talking about Snyder just putting these weird concepts into things. There's a miniature black hole in a glove.
Yeah, but it's cool as shit, so I don't give a damn.
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's a pretty wacky out there concept.
Also, probably two of my favorite lines. One of them came from the Flash. The other one came from the editorial box.
Oh yeah, see the 90s.
See the 90s.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, this is. We give the other company a lot of crap because reasons, but it seems like they take things a bit too seriously. This is one of two big major events, and you can feel that Snyder and Capullo are just having fun.
Yeah.
Just from the outset.
Well, this is what I love about this prologue. This whole thing builds to this Justice League Megazord, right? And it's like, it all builds to that, because basically, Mongol's got this toy man, and he's built him like these robots that are kind of based on the Justice League, right? So they're all in the Justice League colours. And Batman has this crazy idea that the toy man's intentionally like built in a way for them to exploit it. So he's like, let them eat you, let them swallow you, and they all get swallowed. And it's like, he's built into the system that they'll all join together and come as one. And that's when you turn the page. It ends the big prologue scene with this Megazord, and then after that, it's the title page. It's like DC Metal. That's the intro to this. It's like, this is how big and epic this is going to be. Like, this is them saying it's a statement.
Yeah,
this is the starting point.
I love even just that title page where it's really simple. It's just metal logos and it just says a DC Comics event. It's really sleek.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It feels like it's making a big statement and big impact. Can I talk about the placement of the various parts of this Megazord briefly before we dive into
Why does
this?
Flash have to be the foot?
Because he's fast. He makes the most sense that Flash is the foot.
Well, I was just following up because it's the dialogue.
And it's so he can kick his ass, clearly.
Yeah.
You know, I actually think it's much funnier that Green Lantern's the groin. Personally, I think that's kind of amusing. He's got the ego, so he's the crotch.
You realize it is Hal. Like,
yes, it is Hal.
Yeah.
Yes, that's kind of my point.
That's what I mean.
Batman's the head, makes sense. He's the thinker. Superman's the chest. He's the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Cyborg just kind of went with whatever slot was left.
Well, he's the arm. He's just.
I get it because he's got the arm already.
Okay, sure.
So,
I was gonna say because he's just their transportation normally. So.
Right, but like he kind of has that sort of like the arm shape that it has there. He kind of has anyway.
I feel like I mean maybe this would have been too much of a reference to the whole the whole hook hand from the 90s, but I feel like Wonder Woman and Aquaman should have swapped, and Aquaman should have been the big hook arm.
Yeah,
for funds.
Or at least a trident.
The idea that the Wonder Woman's the fist.
I mean, I get that, but
speaking of the trident, I loved Aquaman's little stick trident.
Yeah, because he uses that to activate his robot. He just pokes it in there.
Yeah,
that was pretty funny.
Yeah, so that's the opening. That's all that is. It was just this big opening prologue to just say how big this is going to be.
And then just like, I love Capullo's Justice League. Like, the only time we've got to see him draw them is in Endgame, and it was only for that one issue. So here we get them for an entire issue, and they look great. But then he draws them like they're heading back to Earth, and it's just like a work group. Like, they're kind of casual. It's nothing that you usually see in superhero comics.
What has been missing is what I hate about Brian Hitch's Justice League is there's never just those quiet, casual moments, and yet somehow they've found a way to put those moments into an event, which by definition should be the more balls to the walls thing. But no, they've found time.
Yeah. That's it. If it wasn't in here, you wouldn't criticize it because you don't necessarily expect it in an event like this.
Right. Yeah, you could have just turned the page and they were back on Earth. Like, you didn't need the scene of them traversing through space in a spaceship made by Green Lantern.
Batman thinks he's flying.
Yeah. And I love how it's just like, you're not flying it, man. Like, this is all me. But yeah. And I forgot what I was going to say after that. But yeah, they could have just skipped it, but it gave a moment also for some exposition in case people hadn't read the Forge and the Casting, which is probably my biggest problem with this, is because those two were effectively issue 0. They weren't like standalone. So if you didn't read them, I don't think you're necessarily at a disadvantage, but I think that you might.
Probably should.
I think this reads okay without them, but like the whole end of the issue is that Carter Hall's like journal ends, and I'm like, that means very little if you've just read this issue, but if you've read all three, if you read the 2 prologue issues, then it feels like a big ending to what we've been reading for the last 3 months.
And I definitely know people that skipped them because they're like, well, they're not necessary.
Right, it's this problem where they are part of the story, but they're not Capullo, which is why that's the only reason they're not, is because they wanted to sell this event as this event is Capullo.
Right.
Yeah, and to be fair, it is starting a big way that says this is the start of the main part of the story, but the other two are very relevant.
Effectively, those were the setup issues. Those were the countdown to, like, when you collect Infinite Crisis, you throw in Countdown to Infinite Crisis.
Oh yeah, those two will be in the hardcover come mid next year. There's no doubt about that.
Outside of nitpicks from me being the continuity wonk, I thought this issue was close to perfect between the art.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I mean, I think there's maybe a bit of an exposition dump, which Snyder kind of suffers from, but
that's Snyder though. Like, I feel like to expect that.
It's also a case of him trying to catch up people who maybe didn't read those 2 issues. Like, because he knows it's not. Some people will have skipped them. It's obligated to fill them.
And I know even some DC fans that had they read those, like Challenges of the Unknown, don't mean that much to a lot of people because they're not going to dig as deep as I would have. So, and even the Hawks. I recently started reading Johns's Hawkman series, and I'm not all that familiar with Hawkgirl, and she shows up here, which I'm sure we'll get to. So we're in full spoilers. So,
I think it's
so that didn't
about all
necessarily
the stuff that's explained, but then like Challenge of the Unknown, but then the Metal Men are never even mentioned by name.
No, they're just shown, and that's dope. And Will Magnus, and who's the guy that created Red Tornado? I always forget his name.
I can't remember. Yeah,
it's not Ivo because he did Amazo.
Yeah, I think I like this show a lot. I think what it achieves really well is it feels big. It feels like the big epic start of a story, but much like the what was first, the Forge. Yeah, much like the Forge, it really feels like it is part of like. I'm almost disappointed it's not just called something Crisis. Like, at one point someone mentioned Dark Crisis. I'm like, I almost think Dark Crisis would be a better name. It feels like a crisis. We're dealing with multiverses and whatnot.
That's what happens when you're too old to go to shows anymore. You don't know what to do.
I can't go to the mosh pit anymore. I'm too old. I'm brittle.
But no, this is definitely a crisis. Like, it's not in name, but in spirit.
Yeah.
This is like... I feel almost this is more of a in-tune Crisis than Final Crisis was, because at the end of Final Crisis, I mean, go read that, but I'm going to spoil a little bit of it. Not much changed. Like, reality got reset, and, Batman disappeared through time. But outside of that, not much had changed. Like,
it was the least crisis-y crisis.
Yeah, but it was Crisis in name. This is missing the name, and it feels like the implications going forward are going to impact comics for the next 5 years.
Yeah, it feels like it's going to be big. And the other thing I like about it, much like that first cast issue, is it really feels like it's part of DC's history. Like Hawkgirl showing up and having this important role, like throwing the Metal Man in the background, and obviously we see Plastic Man's egg again, and all these things. And
that Starman, who I'm not quite sure of his name, but I've seen him in things.
Yeah.
He's in the picture next to the Blackhawks.
Yeah, and obviously Fate's on the page with Plastic Man as well, and like it really feels like it's building into like everything in DCU, and it's bringing up things. It brings up Barbatos from Morrison's Batman.
So that was that. I was going to ask. Barbatos was the Bat God, right? He awoken. Okay, I couldn't. Not that I try to forget Return of Bruce Wayne, but the less I think about it, the better.
It was definitely my least favorite. Well, I didn't actually even read the second part of Batman Inc. because I wasn't into it, but. But certainly of what I did read, Return of Bruce Wayne was my least favourite part of his entire run.
Yeah, as am I.
Can we just point out, we've gone this long, talking about this book and, all the crazy things, and we are yet to mention Batman riding a dinosaur.
Yeah, I know.
We've not even got to wait talks to Kendra about yet, but the Justice League.
No, I'm just talking about the ridiculous, over-the-top metal things that we've been mentioning.
Yeah, that's true. Batman riding a dinosaur is pretty metal. But yeah, like what they set up to how there's all these different realms with DC is because of this energy from the nth metal.
Well, before we even get to what we're talking about, right? So there's a mountain in Gotham City. Challenger Mountain's just appeared in Gotham City. They go into the Justice League go to investigate it, and that's when Lady Blackhawk and then helmets off. Oh no, it's Kendra, it's Hawkgirl, and. Obviously, we've seen in one of the Forger casting issues that Hawkman led a team into Challenger Mountain and they disappeared. And the last transmissions that came out of it was, "Don't follow us. There's something evil in here. There's a goddamn dragon. Don't. It's awful. It's evil. Bad." And now it's showing up. So Kendra shows up with her team, bring them to Black Hawk Island. I think was that right?
Yeah, in the South Pacific.
And it explains what they're talking about, and that's when we get to multiverse, and it's like, okay, there's 52, it's a set number, matter and antimatter, but there's something else, this metal, and like all these locations on Earth, Black Hawk Island, Themyscira, and a few other places, like they are like, they're like.
They brought up Skataris, which is from the Warlord series.
Dinosaur Island as well, actually.
Dinosaur Island as well. Last time Skataris was brought up was in that horrible series I was forced to read because I'm a continuity wonk called Convergence. But the fact that Snyder threw it in there is just like, yeah, we're gonna play with all of the history.
Just to compare this to something that Matt won't get this, but Connor will. This felt very Twin Peaks to me. These locations around the world that are the right frequency.
Yeah, I see what you say. That these are the spots.
Yeah, I was getting that vibe from it, which I kind of liked.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Shut up, Matt. You make wrestling references all the time.
Yeah, the card.
Speaking of the Dr. Fate, he says the premonitions. I read it as Matt Hardy yelling premonitions, and I lost it for about 2 minutes this morning. And my wife goes, "I don't even want to know."
Well,
I wish I didn't know.
Making references to shows, I got a big Stranger Things moment because Kendra explains the Dark Multiverse by turning over the map she's got out of the multiverse. It's like, this is the Dark Multiverse, and I'm like, it's the Upside Down!
But I love that Wonder Woman's like, all I see is the back of a map. Like, she's just kind of like, have some imagination, Diana.
Do you know what I like that typically she's the one who will be more like accepting of mystical ideas, and she is the one, but to her this is so ridiculous. Like, no, it's just the black of a map.
She's very literal though, isn't she?
Yeah,
like she believes in all this stuff, but it's because she's seen things.
She hasn't seen the Dark Multiverse.
No one's seen it. Like, that's kind of the point. Because Flash is like, no one knows multiverse shit better than Flash, and he's
no
like,
one has seen it except for the Challengers in Carter Hall, who are back in Challenger Mountain.
Yeah.
Like, that's who's in those pods, right?
Well, we know Red Tornado is for a fact, because he wakes up.
Right, but here's the other thing. Here's my one nitpick. Well, one of many nitpicks. Is Red Tornado was in Challenger Mountain, and then they go to Black Hawk Island, and he's still there. So, did she just wheel him?
Yeah, I think they brought him with, yeah. Okay.
Because my first read through, I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, Red Tornado, he was there. But then I forgot that they went to... I keep wanting to call it Dinosaur Island because there's dinosaurs, but it's not. It's Black Hawk Island.
I just figured they brought them with. Because that's why I'm not necessarily thinking there's people alive in the other pods, because they don't bring them. Or maybe they did, they're just not in that room. But Red Tornado, they expect to...
I think the fact that we know we're getting the Hawkman found...
Which is why I don't think he's in the pods, because that seems more complicated.
Yeah, I just assumed they wheeled the whole pod out, because it was it's segregated. Okay. Superman's there, like flying, pushing it almost. So I thought they just wheeled the whole thing, and Red Tornado's up first by the nature of who he is.
Yeah, because obviously they expect him to wake up because he's not human, so he should theoretically still be functional.
And he was set to, if anybody opens that door, to reawaken and stop them. Yeah. So. And I thought that was interesting too, using him as a sentinel, kind of not like the X-Men Sentinel, but like a guard.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
No, so she explains all this stuff, and actually, okay, right, so we're fighting this, Barbatos, and she explains the history. It's like, but that's not really the name that I was scared to say. She explains that basically the prophecies and everything else is pointing to her, like, oh, there'll be what's the word she uses? The person who'll
wagon.
The wagon, yeah. The wagon who will let Barbatos in is the House of Wayne. It is, it's Batman. And this is where like they all pull out their guns and point them at Batman, and Hal's just like, are you serious? You thought you could bring Batman here? And he's already got halfway off the island at this point, and that's when it cuts to him like raiding the dinosaur. Like, he had this planned.
He says that he had a ride ready the moment we landed here, and he goes, I can promise you it's state of the art. And then you just see him on a dinosaur.
And I love that it's Hal that says that, because we know they're constantly at odds with one another.
Yeah.
So the way I read it was Hal being like, yeah, of course he has a way out. Like, he had a way out before we even got here.
But also it's like, you thought you could trap Batman. That's your plan. Come on, lady.
Of course, she doesn't get what she wants. Batman gets out, goes back home, back to the cave. He's like, Alfred, I've got what I want. And Alfred's like pleading with him to like bring in the League and tell them what he's found and everything else. So, Batman's been a stubborn prick here. So I think this might be a moral experience for him, where maybe he'll learn that he needs to trust his friends a little bit more.
Yeah.
Not think that he has to save everything himself.
Batman has trust issues is a great T-shirt. I wasn't throwing that out there. Because he does, and I mean, he expects everybody to trust him because he's Batman, but then he doesn't ever reciprocate. Because that's what that whole prologue kind of was, where he's like, no, just trust me, push the buttons and let the robots eat you.
Yeah.
And that seems insane, but they listened.
But and now here he gets away with it so often because he's often right. Yeah. Like he usually wins, and that's why it's like, okay.
Well, yeah, but and I understand that they trust him. Like Superman trusts him, and but when it comes to him to put trust in others, he walls off. Like so I definitely feel like that's gonna come into play.
So he's looking into, like, he got the fragment of the nth metal, which is what he was kind of there to nab. and one of the last bits of nth metal on the planet, as far as Ken was aware. And basically hears this noise. It's like a tuning fork. And again, just to make some comparisons to Twin Peaks, I was like, oh, this is really Twin Peaks. So, like, he's hearing a noise, and
I thought it was interesting to use the tuning fork though.
Yeah, it's a very specific kind of obviously pitch and frequency.
Yeah, but that was also in Infinite Crisis. That's what Alexander Luthor created the Crisis Tower for. It was a massive tuning fork.
That's very
and
true.
we saw that not so long ago.
That's what was in.
It's in his cave.
The fortress.
It's in the fortress. You're right. Yeah, it's in Superman's fortress.
Yeah. The cave in the fortress, which I still have issues with.
Hey, Batman's got places all over the planet. He's got one in the fortress. You just have to live with that.
And the moon. But it made it sound like Superman didn't know about it. That's what I have the problem with.
Oh no, he didn't know about it.
He did. Because he was like, "Oh, I asked you to keep this here."
Yeah. But I'm talking the general consensus. People are like, "Oh, there's a Batcave in the fortress." And it drives me nuts. Those people. I'm just being honest, guys. Also, the guy that created Red Tornado. This is all just an excuse for me to interrupt with the guy that created Red Tornado. It was T.O. Morrow. How do we forget that?
Yeah. Now you've said it, I'm like, oh yeah, Morrow.
Yeah.
I can never have told you his first name, though.
No.
I may have remembered his last name, but I never have remembered his first name.
Dr. Magnus. Anyways, but yes. Tuning fork finds his bat symbol.
And of course,
into the study.
Yeah, and of course, as he's going up there, where he's saying the last parts of the Carter Hall journal, and this is something that Carter Hall has left for him to find. It's something that's there to appear when he needs it, or at this time. Presumably, it's probably linked to a Challenger Mountain showing up. That's probably what's triggered it.
Yeah.
And he sees this thing. He picks up the journal. He reads part of it. He's like, "Oh, it's all true," and that's when we get the big ending. So, Connor, since you actually went and read the first volume of Sandman this last week, you'll have more context for this than either of us do. So, explain to us who this character is.
So this is obviously, as he says here, Dream of the Endless. The Endless are like 7 beings that are more than gods. They're like above gods. They're completely immortal. They represent elements, things you have like death, desire, dream.
Yeah, their motivation they're ethereal, and these are their personifications, right?
Right.
Yeah, and so this was this the main character of Sandman? Was this?
Yes, this is the Sandman.
Okay, because I get them all.
Look, can I just
confused? And he didn't look like a Tim Burton character here.
It's because he's in white, not in black, which is very interesting. Like even his speech, I've been reading it. That shape of the speech bubble is the same, except in Sandman it's always black with white text. So I thought it was interesting here.
That's interesting. Can I just say, it's called Metal. There's been metal reference left and right. I just want to point out that at the end of the first issue of a book called Metal, enter Sandman.
I know. Yeah? It's fantastic, isn't it?
It is. And that. I wonder if he's going to release a song list that you could read. I think
he already has.
He has?
I think he's got. It's on some Spotify. You can find it. There's like a official DC.
Well,
Metal
I guess I know what I'm doing after
playlist.
Yeah, you and me both.
Because he was asking. He was asking people on Twitter for like recommendations for each character. Like, what would Lantern's soundtrack be? What would Wonder Woman's soundtrack be?
I'm putting it on now.
Hey, Connor, you're the metal guy. What would Superman's be?
Oh God. That's a really hard one.
Superman's not metal. By definition, Superman is not metal.
Right, that's the problem.
Yeah, but as we were talking about, there's so many different sub-genres that there has to be one that
Superman is a sweeping orchestra. That's who Superman is.
Maybe he's symphonic metal.
Maybe.
Got it. Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Man.
And that's my favorite Zeppelin song.
Don't worry, man. Yeah.
I'm partial to Kashmir myself.
Kashmir's great, but just in terms of lyrical thematics,
he's an alien. Yeah.
Sure.
Flash definitely is speed metal of some kind, like
thrash metal.
Right,
yeah.
Ride the Lightning from Metallica.
Flash metal's thrash metal, so he's the thrash.
Batman's just some Black Sabbath. He's just classic, just straight up pure metal.
Paranoid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, take your pick when it comes to Sabbath, really.
War Pigs. Oh, I love War Pigs. It's a great one.
Aquaman's symphonic metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
Think about it. Just think about it.
Well, what about Wonder Woman? While we're playing this game.
Female vocals, definitely. She has to have some sort of female vocal-led band.
To which is most symphonic metal again still.
I suppose, yeah. I'm thinking more, I don't know, hardcore though, rather than melodic.
Yeah, because she can swing a sword.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hearing a lot of like screaming in her in her music.
Cyborg's definitely like industrial metal. Like,
oh yeah.
He's got Reznor going for sure.
Either that, or it's all metal. Then you get to Cyborg, and it's just like 16-bit beeps and boops from like a Sega Genesis.
I can see Cyborg being new metal.
Yeah.
Is that because none of us like him?
No, because I don't hate all new metal. I just he's that sort of guy. He's younger. He's kind of come up a bit later.
All right, who have we missed? I think I saw them, right? At least in this book.
Green Lantern.
Yeah, it's just Lantern. Lantern's.
He's basically Tony Stark. So he's got the AC/DC.
Yeah. I was gonna say he's got like big, huge sounds because he needs attention, and I guess that goes with AC/DC. I played an AC/DC pinball machine last week. That the longer you play, the longer you hear the song. So, and you can hear when somebody's playing it. Like, it's loud throughout the pinball. Yeah. So, that makes sense. But I definitely have to find this now because I need it.
Where were we? Oh yeah, Sandman.
My dream. Yeah.
Doom of the Endless. Now, I've never read Sandman, and like I had a vague idea who this was. Like, I looked at the image and I'm like, okay, that looks Sandman-y. But like, I've never read Sandman, so I had to double check.
Either. Yeah. Well, because he doesn't look like the. So most of my interaction with the Endless came from reading Wizard coming up before I had comic shops, and they were always going on how great Gaiman was and how great the series was. But they would put up the covers, and it was just this dude that looked like the Crow or from a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah.
And this isn't what the dude looked like. So I was like, well, he says he's Dream, but maybe something in Rebirth changed his look. Like
he does look different. Like I say, like he's all white instead of all black.
So if you're saying these are above gods, what if he's outside of like the universe? Like what if he's above the multiverse and the dark verse? Like he's above all that, and he's like witness to all of it.
He literally lives and rules the realm of dreams. Anything that ever has been dreamt of, any nightmare, that's where he lives. That's what he feeds on, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, and we kind of skipped over the part that they said that Barbatos will come from the nightmare, and Wayne, the son of Wayne, will be prepared through this process. So it almost seems like he's coming to warn Bruce.
Yeah, because he said, he's come to. He says, "I've come to tell you this nightmare has only just begun."
Oh, which actually reminds me. We briefly mentioned the page with Fate and like Plastic Man on it, but I like that it was like people who are like susceptible to picking up messages psychically. Like are already starting to feel it, and I laughed out loud when it got to the Plastic Man egg, and there was just this exclamation mark next to it.
I thought it was really interesting because they were talking about the people who I thought was like the people who were connected to the Nth Metal. So you had Fate and obviously his helmet, and then that one of the Metal Men.
It looks like one of the Metal Men, yeah.
Yeah, and then and obviously based on their inclusion earlier on, I assume they're actually got Nth Metal in them in it now, which is presumably what gives them life. Of some
it makes
sort.
sense, yeah.
I mean, that kind of goes against, again, I'm going to deep dive into continuity, but what brought them to life was their responsometers, and it was based around each of their... So each metal had its own characteristics. So, like gold was pure, so he was that's why he was the leader. And then tin was frail, so he was always the one that's kind of, afraid of everything.
Look at Matt bringing out the deep dive here.
Yeah, right? But if they do make it that it's based around the Nth Metal, if that makes sense, because... Kendra said that the Nth Metal gives off its own unique energy, and it's energy that's not from here. So that's why it's
it's a bit of a retcon, but it's an okay little retcon because it kind of connects more to the universe.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'll buy Nth Metal way more than responsometers. Like
Yeah, it's the idea that like the Nth Metal is kind of their spark of life. It connects them.
Yeah.
But it's what makes the responsometer work.
Also, this makes me assume, because remember we spoke about how Plastic Man's hiding something inside his egg shape? It makes me think whatever's in there is Nth Metal, and that's why he's getting something picked up.
That's what I assume as well.
Yeah.
That exclamation, that's like primarily known for Metal Gear, right? Like,
yeah,
that's where that sound comes from.
Was it you heard the Metal Gear Solid sound in your head when you seen that?
I did, and I don't even play games. That's how ubiquitous it is.
I love that Matt probably just got that from Wreck-It Ralph because there's a little cameo in that.
Most likely. I'm not going to confirm nor deny.
But
anyways, people made a big deal about this, about Dream showing up because Gaiman has to like give permission.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, this is the first time this happened." I was like, "No, Death showed up to talk to Lex Luthor in Paul Cornell's run."
It's still a bit because obviously there was something recently. I can't remember where it was going to be that was going to pop up, and it was going to be something from Gaiman's thing, but they had to change it.
Was that Suicide Squad like one shot or mini?
Right, but they had to change it, so it at least shows that when he gives permission, he doesn't just do it regardless. It doesn't seem.
Yeah, it seems like they maybe like went, okay, we want to play nice with him because we want to use it here, so they changed this other thing that was maybe going to upset him because it was like a weird version of his
presumably
thing.
they asked him and he said no, but here they've asked him, he said yes, which means he okays it with context. He doesn't just go, yeah, sure, whatever.
Well, yeah, but remember, the thing in the Suicide Squad wasn't one of his characters, it was just a similar name, and it was a very similar character. It was almost like a rip-off version of his character. So I almost wonder...
He said no.
And then they delayed it. Well, that's the thing. I don't think they had to ask him because it wasn't actually his. But I think the reason why they might have delayed it is because they want to stay in his good terms, because they want to use these other characters for where it's important. So maybe it wasn't like so much that he got pissed off. Maybe it was they realised that before they asked him, or maybe once it came out that was happening, he's like, hey, I'm not really happy about that. And they're like, okay, well, since you're playing ball and giving us your character for this other thing, we'll accommodate you. And
clearly this is much bigger and more important.
Obviously,
you don't want... So we'll go when we talk about Nightwing, because I had some issues there about a certain group, that if they're overused, they lose their impact. And so the fact that we never really see the Endless interacting with DC, like when they do show up, it's like monumental.
You know what?
And I think that's smart on Gaiman's part. Gaiman. I always mess that up. Gaiman. It's smart on his part to be a little bit more closely guarded with his characters like that.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I've seen people complaining, saying, "Oh, why is everything being in the one universe, like the Watchmen? Like, is it necessary?" But like Matt just said, Death was in Cornell's stuff, and
that's the thing. Almost
the Black Rain.
Almost everything from Vertigo's. I mean, not everything. There's a lot of self-contained stuff. It's not like Why the Last Man's popped up in DC.
Stuff from Vertigo from that time.
Yeah, but
like a lot of it.
But if you're talking about history-altering things, like a dark multiverse, wouldn't it? The Endless be involved?
Well, it's just like, obviously Swamp Thing's a part of DC now, Constantine's a part of DC now. I think Watchmen was a valid kind of question. Like, I mean, I'm not pissed about it, but it was a valid question because that was very much a standalone thing outside of anything that had never interacted with other stuff.
Right. A lot of that early Vertigo stuff was murky, though. And this specific, I read the first 10 issues this week, and so he interacts with Constantine. There's references to Swamp Thing, which, like you say, you can kind of write off because they were Vertigo at the time.
Vertigo is its own shared.
But then he goes and sees Scott Free and Martian Manhunter. So it's like, this has always been in some version of the DC universe, at least.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, would you recommend these books to someone that hasn't read them?
I've been finding them fantastic.
I have the first trade of Sandman. I've had it on my Comixology for about 3 years since I bought it in a sale, like a Christmas sale, 3 years ago.
It's been real late night reading for me, and that really fits into a lot of it. It's this ethereal nightmare themes, and it's like it's really good late night reading.
I'm curious. I'm curious to check it out because while I've enjoyed the American Gods TV show, it's a little bit Brian Fuller for me. I'm really curious to check out some of I almost said Gaiman. I've always said Gaiman, but if it's Gaiman, it's Gaiman.
Yeah. Gaiman.
But I've always been interested in checking out Sandman. For whatever reason, I've just never got around to it. Like I say, the first trade's been sitting on my account.
It's always been one of mine that's like, I should really get around to that. And then this week it was like, well, this is as good a time as any.
Perfect timing.
It's relevant, yeah.
And so I had always been kind of chased off by the fact that there are these ethereal, things. So I think if I read it younger, maybe it would have been different. But the more I hear about Gaiman, the more I want to read it, So I think I could deal with that because I loved his Norse mythology book. How he simplified all that, and from what I hear, American Gods is great. The book.
I've read a few of his books, and I've really loved everything I've read from him. So that's kind of why I wanted to read this anyway.
Yeah. Cool. And he's such a strange creator because I work at a school, and one of the books they have the kids read is the Graveyard Book. And like, I wish when I was coming up, we got to read a Gaiman book in class instead of the regular things. And now
he's also one of the few creators who's really for piracy. He is a complete advocate that some of the people who like consider themselves like really massive fans discovered him through piracy. And there was a point where he gave away one of his books for free for like a year, like a digital copy, and he had to fight the publisher to let it happen. But sales spiked afterwards.
God, because I'm trying to get a man crush on this dude.
Because he was like, no, if you give them it, let them try it. If they like it, they will buy it. And
interesting. That's a curious little tidbit. But what do we think this means going forward for the event? To get back on kind of the main topic here. What do we think the endless Dream of the Endless showing up means for, like, part of me feels like this will be not like, I don't think it'll be like an ongoing character throughout the whole thing. I think he'll be here, he'll do what he's here to say to him, and maybe he'll pop up like towards the end again to like,
He's almost like a herald. You know? Like in the Crisis you had the Harbinger and Psycho Pirate that would come before it almost feels that's what Dream's role is here.
It does. It makes you wonder though, like if he's popping up in issue 1, who else is going to be popping up before these 6 issues are done?
It's something that makes me really excited because it's like, if he's here now, how big is this going to be? Like that, if that's what you're ending just the first issue on, and it's going to go, hey, this is going to get worse. This is going to be one hell of a story.
I'm excited. I'm excited for the Evil Batman. Obviously, I think all the tie-ins and crossovers coming after issue 2 makes a lot of sense now, because it seems like the Evil Batman will come out next issue. That's what it seems like it's going to be. It seems like they're going to show up next time. And that'll lead into all the event. I'm actually really... It's been a while since I've been this excited to not only dive into the event, but also all the tie-ins. Like, I'm excited about the crossovers, I'm excited about the one-shots, because they did a preview of it. They did like the first 3 or 4 pages of a book on like all the websites. The Dawnbreaker, the Green Lantern Dark Batman story. The first few pages that went up, and it was like the version... I think each of them are going to start with that Batman's origin and how it differs from... like what we're used to.
Right. So what?
Bruce Wayne's.
And this was like just glancing at this preview. It seems like right after the death of the Waynes, the Ring shows up, and like young Bruce Wayne immediately has power of the Green Lantern right after. Which obviously
you give that to a kid, and it's like
right after that just happened.
Kid.
So I'm actually really excited to see how all these different Batmen became what they were. Like the Batman Who Laughs, I'm actually really pumped to see how does that happen.
You shared that out the other day,
the
and I
cover.
said no me gusta. Yeah, and I didn't mean I didn't like it. It scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah,
it was like one of those images. It's so unsettling.
To be specific, that cover wasn't for the one shot. That was the cover for Metal issue 5, I think it was. But it was the Batman.
Okay.
And it was
Gotcha.
It was at least inspired by the Dark Knight poster where the Joker's holding the card in front of him.
Yeah, well, and he's holding a tarot death card that has the heads of the Justice League skewered.
This makes sense that he's... I mean, I don't know if he's the big bad, like, because obviously we keep talking about this big dragon, this big actual Barbatos demon, but... It makes sense that out of the Dark Batman, he's the worst.
Yeah. Well, because he's Batman's greatest enemy.
Yeah.
Combined. Yeah. Right. I kind of hope we don't see Barbatos. I kind of hope that they give him the Lovecraft treatment. Like, we just feel his presence, kind of like what we got in Mr. Miracle.
Maybe you get hints.
Last week.
Yeah. Barbatos is...
Yeah.
Oh, Matt, you're right.
That's good. I was just going to say, it was really interesting. I was just checking the checklist. Teen Titans 12 is actually before Metal number 2. They're out on the same day.
Oh, interesting.
But on the checklist, Teen Titans comes first. So
that is interesting. I wonder if that maybe ends with a cliffhanger. Like maybe Teen Titans is mostly its own thing, but the ending of the issue is like the portal opening or whatever it is.
Right.
And it'll be like a tease for the Metal issue that you jump into next.
Yeah.
Oh, Matt's muted.
That's got no sound.
Yeah, Matt's somehow turned his mic off anyway to fix it. He was just sitting... He was probably giving us the best discussion he's ever had in his life, and we couldn't hear a word of it.
How about now?
There you go. He's back.
Okay. That's weird, because I just shut it off, turned it on like I normally do. But I was say, if Titans is first, how is Damian going to react to these evil Batman? Like, I haven't even thought about that till now.
I mean, how are all the Bat family going to react? Like,
with a sword is the answer for Damian.
Like, how does Batwoman react? How does Barbara react? How does Nightwing? Like, how do all of them react? Like, there's potential there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So are we done with Metal? Did we spend enough time on issue 1 of Metal?
I just want to say again, Batman rides a dinosaur. Let's just not overlook that.
Which is great, but not quite as amazing as the Justice League Megazord.
Yo, a mountain appeared over Gotham for no reason. Oh, also, Bear Clan, Wolf Clan, Bird Clan. I better see who's in the Bear Clan.
Nah, they're saving that for Metal 2, Electric Boogaloo.
No, I needs it. The A, I love bears. B, I love compartmentalization.
Who's in the Wolf Clan?
I don't know.
Yeah, we're setting up a trilogy here. We're clearly going to get the wolf story and the bear story later. That's clearly going to be a thing.
Because we know the birds, like that's a heavy theme, but I got to know.
Which actually was interesting because they mentioned that the House of Wayne was a bird family.
It was a bat family that came to the side of good to the birds, and that's why they're able to bring Barbatos in.
Interesting.
So
I really like the ending of Carter's journal where one of the last things he says is a proud member of the tribe of the bird.
Yeah,
I thought that was nice.
Oh. But obviously, I mean, there's probably more we've not even hit on. But we'll be talking a lot more about Metal over the next few months because after issue 2, we're going to have at least a one shot every week, pretty much for like a good couple of months. So
it runs till like mid-February, I think.
Yeah, so expect a lot of Metal talk over the next few months. And that'll wrap up our conversation of Dark Knight's Metal issue 1. This has been kind of an excerpt of sorts of the full podcast that we do. You can find that'll already be up on the channel. You can also download the audio version from your favourite podcast apps and iTunes and all the rest of it. We're on Podbean. But the full thing is quite long, so we cut this out just if you wanted to have this part and maybe get a sample. But typically you get the full podcast each week, every Saturday. We talk about all the DC comics we read, which is almost all of them. There's a few we don't, because if we all don't like it, we don't see the point in trudging through it and just complaining all the time. But we cover most of them. So by all means, go check it out. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast. But that's us. So thank you once again, and we'll see you hopefully next time.